The iron gates of cell 47 groaned open with a sound that echoed through the dark stone corridor. The smell of rust and old blood filled the air. The guards moved like shadows, their armor shining dimly under the flickering lights. Between them stood a woman, her hands bound with steel cuffs. Her name was Lyra Kane. Her eyes were calm, but inside her heart raced like a storm. She did not beg. She did not cry. She only stared at the cold floor as the warden read her sentence. "Lyra Kane," he said, his voice heavy and cruel. "You are charged with treason against the High Colony. For your crime, you will be sent into the Beast's Denver." The words made the guards whisper. Everyone in the colony knew the name. The Beast's Denver. A dark pit at the edge of the city, where the monsters lived. No one ever came back. It was not just a death sentence, it was a nightmare come alive. Lyra lifted her head. Her face was covered with dirt and bruises, but her eyes were bright, sharp like broken glass. "At least the beast will look me in the eyes," she said quietly. The warden frowned. "Take her." The guards dragged her through long tunnels until they reached the outside gate. Beyond the metal fence lay the wasteland, gray sand, broken buildings, and the black pit that swallowed everything. The storm clouds above moved like smoke. The den was deep underground, a hole that looked like the mouth of some sleeping god. One of the guards, a young man, looked nervous. "She doesn't deserve this," he whispered. The other guard laughed. "She's a traitor. Let the beast have her." Lyra heard them, but she said nothing. She walked forward when they pushed her, her bare feet bleeding on the rough stone. The air grew colder as they approached the edge. From below came a low growl, deep and heavy. The sound made even the guards step back. The warden handed Lyra a small pendant, her identification tag. "You'll need this," he said mockingly. "For what's left of you." Lyra took it and looked at it for a moment. Then she dropped it into the darkness below. "I don't belong to you anymore," she said. The warden gave the order. The metal gate opened with a hiss, and the floor beneath her feet moved. The guards shoved her forward, and she fell into the darkness. For a moment, everything was silent except the sound of the wind. Then came the echo of her body hitting the ground far below. The gate closed. The guards turned away. To them, she was already dead. But down in the dark, Lyra opened her eyes. Her head hurt. Her body ached. She could barely move. The air was damp and cold. Somewhere close, water dripped from the rocks. She tried to stand, but her legs trembled. Her vision blurred, but slowly, shapes began to appear, the jagged walls of a cave, twisted roots hanging from the ceiling, glowing fungi spreading faint light. Then she heard it. A deep, slow breathing. Something alive. Something huge. Lyra froze. Her heart pounded. The sound came closer. Two red eyes opened in the dark, glowing like fire. The beast. Its body was covered with thick scales, its claws scraping the stone. The ground shook as it moved. Lyra stepped back, her hands trembling. She had no weapon, no hope. The creature lowered its head, sniffing the air, then growled, a sound that made the walls vibrate. Lyra closed her eyes. She thought of her mother's face, of the people who had lied about her, who had called her a traitor. She thought of the life they stole from her. She whispered, "If this is my end, I will not scream." The beast roared and charged forward. Lyra fell to the ground, rolling away just in time. The claws tore through rock where she had stood. Dust filled the air. She ran deeper into the cave, her breath sharp, her feet slipping on the wet ground. The sound of the beast followed, heavy and close. She turned a corner and stopped. The tunnel ended in a wall. She was trapped. The beast's shadow filled the tunnel behind her. It raised its claws again, and then stopped. The air around Lyra shimmered faintly, like heat waves. A strange light glowed beneath her skin. Her veins turned blue, bright and pulsing. The beast tilted its head, confused. Then it stepped back. It growled softly, almost like a warning. Lyra didn't understand. She looked at her hands. The light grew stronger, spreading from her palms. The pain was sharp but powerful. The beast backed away further, watching her with wide eyes. For the first time, it looked afraid. The light faded slowly, leaving only silence. Lyra sank to her knees, breathing hard. She didn't know what had happened. But she was alive. The beast had not killed her. In the distance, thunder rolled across the surface. The smell of rain drifted through the cracks above. Lyra looked at the shadows where the creature had disappeared. "You're not the only one trapped here," she whispered. The cave answered with silence. Somewhere far in the darkness, the beast let out a low, mournful sound. Lyra leaned back against the cold rock and closed her eyes. She was weak, hungry, and alone. But deep inside, something had changed. She could feel it, something new, something dangerous, growing within her. The colony thought they had sent her to die. But the night was long, and death was not ready for her yet. Above, the storm raged. Below, in the beast's den, a spark of something unknown began to burn. When Lyra opened her eyes, the light was dim and blue, coming from strange fungi that glowed on the walls like dying stars. The air was cold and heavy, carrying the smell of metal and earth. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then the memory hit her. The fall, the darkness, the beast. She looked around. The cave stretched deep in every direction, tunnels branching like veins under the world. Her body ached, but her wounds had already stopped bleeding. That was strange. She touched her arm, and beneath her skin, she felt a faint pulse of warmth, like something alive moving inside her veins. She whispered to herself, "What did they do to me?" Her voice echoed off the stone walls. The echo sounded like another person speaking back to her. She pushed herself up and looked around. The floor was uneven, covered with bones and old metal fragments. Some looked like human remains. Others were not human at all. Long claws, twisted skulls, sharp fangs that looked melted, as if burned by acid. The beast had lived here for years. Maybe it wasn't alone once. Lyra took a careful step forward. The sound of her bare feet on the cold ground was loud in the silence. Every shadow looked alive. The deeper she went, the more she noticed something strange, symbols carved into the rock. Circles within circles, lines that glowed faintly when she passed her hand over them. They looked like markings from a lab, not the work of nature. Her breath caught. Could this place have once been human-made? She remembered her trial. The council never spoke of what the den really was. They just called it cursed land. But what if it was something else? What if it was a secret they wanted to bury? She heard a low growl behind her. The beast was there again. Its eyes glowed red in the shadows, but it didn't move closer. Lyra froze. The creature's breathing was deep and slow, like the rumble of an engine. It was watching her, waiting. She turned slightly, keeping her distance. "I won't hurt you," she said softly, though she wasn't sure if she was saying it for the beast or for herself. The creature's head tilted, curious. Its skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the blue light of the cave. Then, for a second, Lyra saw something. Wires. Thin black wires running under its skin like veins. Her eyes widened. This wasn't just an animal. It was a creation. A hybrid. Maybe even a weapon. The beast took a step forward, and Lyra's arm began to glow again. Blue light crawled under her skin, pulsing faster with each heartbeat. The beast stopped. It sniffed the air, then let out a soft sound, almost like a whine. It lowered its head. Lyra didn't move. She could feel the strange connection between them. The same energy that had frightened the creature before now made it hesitate. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. The beast turned slowly and walked deeper into the cave, glancing back as if asking her to follow. Lyra hesitated, then took a step. The tunnel opened into a large chamber, the walls smooth and metallic. The glow here was brighter, coming from broken machines and flickering screens still running on faint power. The sight made Lyra's stomach twist. This was not a natural cave. It was a laboratory, buried and forgotten. The air hummed softly with the sound of dying circuits. She walked past shattered glass tubes, each one big enough to hold a person. Inside, there were marks, claw scratches, bloodstains, and old names etched into the glass with fingernails. Project Echo, 12. Project Echo, 13. Then she saw a tag half buried in dust. Project Echo, 14. Her own name was printed below it. Lyra Kane. Her breath stopped. Her memories came in flashes, needles, white light, voices arguing, a man saying, "She's the only one who survived." It all came rushing back. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was one of their experiments. The beast moved closer and let out a deep sound, half growl, half breath. Lyra turned toward it. The red light of its eyes softened. For the first time, she didn't see a monster. She saw pain. Maybe the same pain she felt in herself. "They made you too," she whispered. "Didn't they?" The beast blinked slowly, as if it understood. It lowered its head near her hand. She hesitated, then touched its skin. It was rough and warm, like stone that breathed. The air around them vibrated slightly. For a moment, the cave felt alive, pulsing with invisible energy. Then the lights flickered, and a sharp sound echoed from deeper tunnels. Metal clanging, mechanical whirs waking up after years of silence. Lyra turned her head quickly. The noise was coming closer. Something else was moving in the dark. Not the beast. Something different. Smaller. Faster. She saw red dots of light moving along the floor. Scanners. Old security drones still patrolling. They detected motion, locked onto her heat signature, and began to activate. Their voices were distorted, glitching through static. Unauthorized subject detected. Subject code, Echo 14. Lyra's heart pounded. The beast growled, stepping between her and the drones. The first drone fired a thin red beam that burned through the air, hitting the beast's shoulder. The smell of burned flesh filled the cave. Lyra screamed, "Stop!" The blue light under her skin flared again, brighter this time. A shockwave burst from her body, a wave of energy that made the walls tremble. The drones froze in midair, their lights flickering, and then all three dropped to the ground, dead and smoking. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping for air. The blue glow faded slowly. The beast turned to her, wounded but alive. It looked at her differently now, with something like respect. She met its gaze, her voice shaking. "I didn't know I could do that." The creature blinked, then let out a low sound that almost felt like agreement. The silence that followed was thick and strange. Somewhere above, the sound of thunder rolled through the ground. Lyra looked up at the roof of the cave, where cracks showed faint light from the surface. "They threw me down here to die," she whispered. "But they buried their secret with me." The beast stepped closer, its shadow falling over her like a living wall. Lyra didn't move away this time. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, her mind racing. The den wasn't just a prison. It was the graveyard of their sins. And she was walking through their ghosts. As the last drone sparkled and died, the cave grew silent again. But this time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt alive, watching her, waiting for what she would become next. Lyra woke to the sound of dripping water and the faint hum of energy still whispering through the cave. Her body felt heavy, but stronger than before. The blue veins that had glowed beneath her skin were now faint, resting like quiet rivers of light. The beast lay nearby, its breathing deep but slow, the wound on its shoulder already sealed by a dark metallic crust. She watched it for a moment, wondering what it truly was. Not just a monster. Not a machine either. Something between life and experiment like her. She pushed herself up, her muscles stiff but responsive. The memory of the drones burning in her light replayed in her mind. That energy had come from inside her, raw and alive, like lightning in her blood. She did not understand it, but she could feel it waiting beneath her skin, quiet but ready. The cave felt different now. She could sense vibrations through the ground, tiny pulses of movement like heartbeats hidden deep inside the rock. When she closed her eyes, she could almost see them, echoes of machines still breathing below. Lyra followed the faint trail of flickering light deeper into the Denver. The tunnels were winding, wet, and filled with echoes. The walls looked organic in some places, metal in others, as if the entire place had grown into something alive over time. Strange tubes ran along the ceiling, glowing faintly with the same blue hue that pulsed inside her. The deeper she went, the more she felt connected to the place, as if it recognized her presence. The beast followed quietly behind her, moving with surprising grace for its size. Whenever she slowed, it stopped too, its red eyes always watching, always near but never threatening. They reached another large chamber, darker and quieter than the last. At its center stood a tall column of glass, cracked but still standing. Inside was a humanoid shape, skeletal and long, floating in thick green fluid. The label at the bottom was faded, but she could still read it, Echo 1. Her stomach twisted. She was Echo 14. That meant there were at least 13 before her. She stepped closer, brushing away the dust with her hand. The glass was cold. The figure inside was lifeless, but its body looked partly mechanical. Metal fused with flesh, cables where veins should be. Lyra whispered. What were they trying to make? Her voice trembled. She turned to the walls and saw old screens, their surfaces cracked but still flickering with faint images, video logs looping endlessly. She reached out and pressed one. The screen blinked, and a man's face appeared, blurred but familiar. He wore a white coat, his eyes dark with exhaustion. Test number 72, he said. Subject Echo 14 shows high neural fusion rate. She survived the serum transfer. All previous subjects failed. The hybrid strain is stable. We proceed tomorrow. His voice trembled. If this works, we'll control the beasts. The video cut to static. Lyra felt her legs weaken. Control the beasts. That meant she wasn't just an experiment for power, she was made as a weapon. Her memories flooded back in pieces. Cold metal tables, injections, screams from other rooms, the beast's roar echoing through the walls. She remembered a man shouting, "She's the only one compatible." And then the pain, the burning, and then darkness. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "You didn't want to kill the beasts. You wanted to own them." Behind her, the beast growled softly, as if it understood. Lyra turned toward it, her eyes meeting its glowing red ones. "They made us both," she said. "You were their weapon too." The beast lowered its head. It seemed to agree. She reached out slowly, touching its forehead. The blue light beneath her skin glowed faintly, and to her surprise, the creature's red eyes flickered to the same color for a moment. She felt a pulse of energy, not painful this time, but clear and sharp, like a thought shared between them. Images flashed in her mind, not hers, memories of cages, machines, and screaming humans in white coats. She saw the beast as it once was, smaller, frightened, being injected with glowing liquid. And then the pain, the transformation, and the silence. Lyra gasped and pulled her hand back. Her head ached with the sudden rush of visions. She realized what had happened. She could see its memories. The connection between them was real, like a bridge built from their shared creation. She looked around at the ruins of the lab, her voice shaking with new understanding. This place wasn't just a prison. It was the birthplace of monsters. And I'm one of them. The beast made a low sound, almost like a sigh. Lyra stood quietly for a long moment, then turned toward the tunnel that led upward. She could feel the faint breeze from the surface. "We can't stay here," she said softly. "They'll find us. They always do." As if answering her, a loud rumble echoed through the cave. Dust fell from the ceiling. The old systems were waking up, alarms flickering red on broken panels. Somewhere above, machinery hummed back to life. The den was reactivating itself. The beast snarled and moved closer to her, its eyes scanning the shadows. Lyra's pulse quickened. She could feel energy building again under her skin. She clenched her fists and whispered, "If they made me to control you, maybe I can control this." She focused on the vibration in the ground, the hum of the machines waking. Her mind reached out instinctively, and for a moment, the lights obeyed her. The flickering red turned steady blue. The alarms went silent. The air felt alive around her, bending to her will. She smiled weakly, the power fading as quickly as it came. "I can feel them," she whispered. "Every wire, every pulse. It's all connected to me." But the moment was short. From the far end of the tunnel, a light appeared, white, harsh, and moving fast. A drone scout. Not broken like the others. Newer. Cleaner. That meant someone had reactivated the facility from outside. Lyra's heart sank. They knew she was alive. The drone scanned the room, spotted her, and began transmitting. She raised her hand instinctively. The blue light surged again, bright and wild, bursting through her palm like fire. The drone exploded midair. But she could feel something else now, a signal sent before it died. They had her coordinates. She looked at the beast and said, "They're coming." The creature growled, deep and ready. Lyra took a deep breath. "Then we go to them first." As they moved into the dark tunnel, the glowing blue lines along the walls brightened, following her steps like veins of power leading upward. She didn't know what waited above, but she knew one thing. She was not the same woman they threw into the beast's den. Something inside her had awakened. Something the colony was never meant to face. The ground shook as Lyra and the beast moved through the tunnels. The faint blue glow that followed her footsteps pulsed like veins of light through the walls, showing the path forward. The deeper hum of the den was no longer silent. It was awake, alive, reacting to her presence. Machines hidden under the stone whispered with static energy as if recognizing their lost master. Lyra's breath came out in quick clouds. She could feel the surface above her, faint wind seeping through cracks in the rock. Her mind raced with the same thought: she had to get out before they came for her. The beast walked beside her, silent and alert. Every sound made its claws twitch, every vibration made its ears move. Lyra didn't know if she could fully trust it, but deep inside, she felt something that told her the creature would protect her. Maybe because it didn't see her as a human. Maybe because it saw her as something else, one of its own. They reached a section where the tunnel split in two. Lyra paused, listening. To the left came faint metallic clanging. To the right, a soft wind. She looked at the beast and whispered, "We take the wind." It grunted in agreement. As they moved, the air grew cleaner, fresher. Light spilled from cracks in the ceiling, and soon, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber filled with old machinery. Rusted platforms hung above pits of darkness, and thick cables ran across the floor like snakes. In the center stood a massive steel door, half buried under rock, marked with the same symbol she had seen on the walls, 3 interlocked circles glowing faintly blue. Lyra stepped closer, her heart beating faster. "This is the exit," she said. She touched the cold metal. The lights around the symbol brightened under her hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground trembled as gears deep within the door began to move. The sound of ancient machinery roared through the cave, echoing like thunder. The beast growled and stepped back, uneasy. Lyra shielded her face from the dust as the door slowly lifted, revealing blinding white daylight. For the first time since her fall, she saw the sky again, pale and cloud-covered, but free. The air smelled of ash and rain. She took a deep breath, tears stinging her eyes. "We made it," she whispered. But the moment didn't last. A loud mechanical whine filled the air above them. Lyra looked up and froze. Drones, dozens of them, hovered in formation, their red scanners blinking. Soldiers in black armor surrounded the pit's edge, rifles ready. A voice echoed from a loudspeaker. "Subject Echo 14, stand down. You are property of the High Colony. Do not resist." Lyra clenched her fists. The beast stepped in front of her, roaring so loud the ground shook. The soldiers flinched but didn't move back. "Open fire," the voice commanded. Red beams sliced through the air. Lyra ducked, rolling behind a rock, as the beast charged forward. The impact was brutal. The creature slammed into the soldiers, sending them flying like rag dolls. Explosions lit the air. Smoke and dust filled the pit. Lyra felt the same power building inside her again, faster and hotter this time. Her skin burned with blue light. She stood and shouted, her voice raw. "Stop." The word wasn't just sound, it was energy. The blast rippled through the field, knocking drones from the sky. The soldiers screamed as their weapons shorted out. The light faded slowly, leaving her dizzy but standing. The beast limped toward her, its shoulder bleeding again from plasma fire. Lyra grabbed its thick hide, trying to steady herself. Her voice trembled. "They'll send more." She looked toward the horizon. The colony's towers glowed faintly in the distance, tall and cold against the storm clouds. Her heart filled with fury. That was where her punishment had started. That was where the lies were made. She wasn't going to hide anymore. She looked at the beast. "We're going back." The creature tilted its head, as if understanding. Together, they started across the wasteland. The ground was dry and cracked, dotted with bones and old machinery. The wind howled, carrying the faint scent of smoke. Lyra could feel the pain in her body, but her steps were strong. Every beat of her heart made the blue veins pulse brighter. The beast walked beside her, a shadow of muscle and power, limping but unbroken. As they climbed a ridge, she looked down and saw what remained of the den, a crater of steel and stone, glowing faintly like the wound of the world. She whispered, "They buried their sins, but now they'll face them." Above, thunder rolled again, dark clouds swirling over the colony walls. She knew it wouldn't be easy. They would hunt her. They would call her monster. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She had seen what real monsters looked like, and they wore human faces. The colony's defense towers turned slowly toward her direction, scanning the wasteland. Distant alarms began to sound. The beast stopped and growled low, sensing danger. Lyra turned to it, her voice calm but fierce. "We'll go through them." Her hand brushed the creature's shoulder, and the wound began to heal under her touch, glowing blue before sealing completely. The beast looked surprised, then let out a deep growl that sounded almost like a laugh. Lyra smiled faintly. Let them see what they created. As they approached the colony gates, she saw soldiers forming lines, drones hovering above them, cannons charging with bright red energy. She didn't run. The blue light under her skin began to glow again, spreading from her hands to her eyes. Her hair lifted slightly in the charged air. The soldiers shouted warnings. "Stop. You'll be destroyed." She kept walking. The first cannon fired. The shot hit the ground near her feet, throwing up dust and fire. The beast roared and lunged forward, smashing through the front line. Lyra raised her arms, and the air around her exploded in light. Energy burst out like a wave, turning weapons to ash and shattering metal walls. The sound was deafening. When the dust cleared, she stood in the center of the chaos, eyes burning blue, smoke rising around her. The soldiers had fallen silent. Even the drones hovered without firing, as if something in their systems had been rewritten. Lyra stepped over the broken gates. Her voice was quiet but full of power. "You threw me to the monster," she said. "But you created one." Lightning flashed behind her as the storm broke open. The beast stood beside her, growling at the trembling soldiers. Lyra looked toward the inner city, where the council waited in their tall silver tower. "Now they will see me," she whispered. The blue light dimmed slightly, but her resolve burned brighter than ever. The wind carried the smell of rain and smoke as she took her first step into the city that had once cast her out. Somewhere deep inside, she knew there was no going back. The beast's den had not killed her, it had awakened her. And now, for the first time, she was free. The city gates hung in ruins behind her, smoke rising into the gray sky like black ribbons twisting in the wind. Lyra walked through the broken streets with steady steps, her eyes glowing faintly blue beneath the stormlight. The beast followed silently, its heavy claws leaving deep marks in the cracked ground. Around them, the citizens of the high colony hid inside shattered buildings, peering through broken windows, whispering her name like a ghost story come alive. They had seen her fall. They had watched her thrown into the Denver. No one ever returned from that place. Yet here she was, walking through the ashes of their perfect city, alive and changed. The rain began to fall, cold drops mixing with the dust and blood on her skin. She passed through the lower sector, the place where the poor lived, where she had grown up before the council took her away. The old marketplace was empty now, abandoned after the curfew. But memories clung to the walls, her mother's laughter, her brother's voice, the smell of baked bread. She stopped for a moment, touching the stone arch where she once played as a child. The light from her hand left a faint glow on the wall, like a memory burned into time. The beast lowered its head beside her, letting out a soft sound. Lyra whispered, "This was home once. Before they took everything." She turned toward the tall spire of the council tower rising above the city like a blade piercing the clouds. "Now it's time they remember me." The tower stood surrounded by soldiers, their armor black and wet from the rain. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their fear was clear in their voices. "Hold position. She's coming this way." Lyra heard them long before she reached them. Her new senses made everything sharp, the pulse of their hearts, the static hum of their weapons, the trembling in their hands. She could feel their fear, as if it were a physical scent in the air. The beast growled, ready to strike, but Lyra raised her hand. "Not yet," she said. Her voice carried calm authority, soft but unshakable. The soldiers hesitated as she stepped closer, her shadow stretching across the wet ground. "Lyra Kane," one of them shouted through a speaker. "By order of the High Council, you are to surrender immediately." She smiled faintly, her eyes cold. "You had your order once. You threw me into the dark. Now I bring the dark back to you." Without another word, she raised her hand, and the ground beneath them trembled. The lights flickered as her power surged through the metal of the city, turning their weapons into molten fragments. The soldiers stumbled back, some falling to their knees. She didn't kill them. She didn't need to. Their fear was enough. The doors of the council tower opened with a hiss, and the warden who had once read her sentence stepped out, now older, thinner, and shaking. He stared at her as if seeing a ghost. "It's impossible," he whispered. "You were dead." Lyra walked toward him slowly, the beast at her side. "You told me I would die," she said. "You were almost right." He stepped back, his hand trembling. "What are you?" She stopped a few feet from him, rain running down her face. "Something you made. Something you buried." Her voice was calm, but it carried weight, each word cutting through the storm. "You called me a traitor because I saw what you were doing in the labs. Because I tried to stop it. But you couldn't risk the truth." The warden shook his head, fear twisting his face. "You don't understand. It was for survival. The outer worlds were dying. We needed something stronger, something that could protect us from what's coming." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "So you turned people into monsters?" Her voice rose, filled with fury. "You called it survival, but it was greed. You wanted control." She stepped closer until he could feel the heat of her power in the air. "And now your creation stands before you." Lightning flashed behind her, lighting up the beast's form in a blue silhouette. The warden fell to his knees. "Please, spare the city. We were only following orders." Lyra looked down at him, her face unreadable. "Then follow this one," she said. "Tell them the truth. Tell them what you did." He looked up, confused. "What truth?" Her hand lifted, and the blue light expanded, wrapping around them both. The walls flickered with images, memories projected like ghosts from her mind. The experiments, the screaming, the dead subjects, the scientists watching behind glass, the moment she was thrown into the Denver. The citizens gathered outside began to see the visions too, flickering in the stormy air like holograms of guilt. Gasps and cries echoed through the streets as the truth unfolded. Lyra released the warden, and he collapsed, shaking and crying. "They will never forgive us," he whispered. Lyra stepped back, her expression calm. "They shouldn't." She turned and began walking toward the center of the tower, where the council chamber waited. The beast followed close behind, its claws clicking softly against the metal floor. Inside, the remaining council members stood in silence, fear painted across their faces. The leader, a woman in silver armor, spoke first. "Lyra Kane," she said slowly. "You are no longer human. You are unstable. You're a danger to us all." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "Maybe I'm the danger you created to protect yourselves from your own sins." The leader lifted her weapon, but it shook in her hands. "We had no choice." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "You always had a choice. You chose fear." The weapon fired, but the bullet turned to ash before reaching her. The energy field around her shimmered, and in a single movement, she raised her hand. The floor cracked, and the walls trembled. The power wasn't wild this time, it was controlled, precise. The light surrounded the council, trapping them in a cage of energy. "You sentenced me to death," Lyra said softly. "Now I sentence you to truth." The blue light brightened, erasing their holograms, exposing their secret transmissions across the city. Every lie they ever told, every innocent person they condemned. The system they built was collapsing, piece by piece. The storm outside roared louder, wind shaking the tower. Lyra stood at the center of it all, her expression calm but filled with sorrow. "You could have made something beautiful," she whispered. "Instead, you made monsters." The beast roared behind her, its voice echoing through the broken glass. She turned toward the city below, seeing lights flicker as power grids failed. People were leaving their homes, stepping into the streets, staring up at the tower. Lyra knew her message was clear. The colony was built on lies, and now those lies were ashes. She looked once more at the beast, her voice soft. "It's done. Let's go." They walked out together as the tower burned behind them. Rain fell harder, washing away the smoke. The city was silent, watching her disappear into the storm. And for the first time, they whispered her name not with fear, but with awe. Lyra Kane, the woman who walked into the beast's den and returned as something greater. The rain had stopped, but the city still burned. Smoke rose in black columns that twisted into the dark sky, glowing red from the fires below. Lyra stood on the edge of the broken tower, her cloak torn and wet, her hair tangled in the wind. The beast crouched beside her, its scales shimmering faintly under the light of the burning skyline. For a moment, everything was quiet, too quiet. Then the sound of engines filled the air. Drones. Dozens of them. Their red sensors blinked like eyes searching in the dark. The High Council might have fallen, but the military remained, programmed to obey whoever took command next. And someone had. A new voice crackled over the loudspeakers across the ruins. "This is Commander Rowe of the Central Defense Division. All units engage on sight. The target is hostile. Repeat, engage on sight." Lyra narrowed her eyes. "They never stop," she whispered. The beast growled low, as if agreeing. She looked at the sky, where small metal shapes were descending fast. The drones circled, scanning for movement. She could sense their heat signatures, feel the pulse of their energy cores. "Let them come," she said quietly. A moment later, blue light burst through the sky as the first drone fired. The explosion threw debris into the air. Lyra moved fast, almost too fast to see. Her body shimmered with that strange blue glow, and every movement was smooth and precise. The drones fired again, but the energy beams curved away from her like light bending through water. The beast leapt into the air, smashing one of the machines with a roar. Metal rained down, sparks flying in all directions. Lyra raised her hand and sent a pulse of energy that shattered 3 drones at once. For a moment, it seemed like victory. But then she heard the heavy thud of boots. Soldiers. Armored units were approaching through the smoke, their faces hidden behind mirrored helmets. These were not ordinary soldiers, they were hunters. Each carried a weapon designed to neutralize energy signatures, like hers. Lyra's heart beat faster. She had never faced this kind of force before. "Beast," she said softly. "We can't fight them all." The creature growled, reluctant to retreat, but she placed a hand on its head. "Trust me." Together, they slipped into the shadows as the soldiers surrounded the ruins. Commander Rowe watched from above, standing on a hovering platform. His armor was polished silver, his voice calm but cruel. "Find her. Bring her in alive if possible. If not, burn the city with her." His soldiers spread out, using scanners and heat trackers. Lyra moved silently through the narrow alleys, her breathing slow and controlled. She could feel their presence, hear the faint hum of their weapons, smell the ozone from their energy cells. She knew the city better than any of them. This was her home once, and even in ruins, it still remembered her. She led the beast through underground tunnels, avoiding detection. But every time they thought they were safe, another drone would appear, forcing them deeper into the dark. Hours passed. The hunt didn't stop. Lyra's energy was fading. Every burst of power drained her more than before. The mutation was growing inside her, changing her body faster than she could control. Her hands trembled when she touched the wall. The blue glow pulsed under her skin like a living heartbeat. The beast watched her, worried, letting out a soft growl. "I'm fine," she whispered. But she wasn't. She could feel something burning inside her, spreading like fire through her veins. Suddenly, a beam of light cut through the tunnel. One of the soldiers had found them. "Target acquired," the soldier shouted. The tunnel filled with gunfire. Lyra turned, eyes blazing. She raised her hand, and the world seemed to slow. The bullets stopped midair, glowing with blue light, before falling harmlessly to the ground. The soldiers stared in disbelief. Then Lyra spoke, her voice echoing through the darkness. "You're hunting the wrong monster." She pushed forward, and the air exploded with force. The tunnel walls cracked, sending soldiers flying. The beast charged through the smoke, crushing the remaining enemies with one swing of its claws. When the noise finally stopped, silence returned. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. Her hands shook as the light flickered. The beast lowered its head beside her. She whispered, "They won't stop, not until I'm gone." From above, Commander Rowe's voice echoed through a communicator. "So it's true," he said. "You survived the den, impressive. But you're not the first experiment to crawl back from the dark." Lyra looked up toward the voice. "You were part of it," she said coldly. "You knew what they did." Rowe laughed. "I helped design it. You're the proof that it worked." His words sent a chill through her. "You turned me into this," she whispered. "We turned you into evolution," Rowe replied. "The others didn't survive. But you did. You're the weapon we dreamed of. If only you'd accept it." Lyra clenched her fists, her eyes blazing. "I'm not your weapon." The ground trembled as her energy surged again. "I'm what happens when your weapon learns to think." With that, she unleashed a wave of light that shattered the tunnel roof, bringing it down between them. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, Lyra and the beast were gone. Commander Rowe stepped through the rubble, scanning the area. "She's getting stronger," he muttered. "We'll have to use the other one." He turned to his soldiers. "Activate Subject 0. The soldiers hesitated. "Sir, Subject 0 was—" "I know what it was," Rowe interrupted sharply. "Do it." As they moved to follow his orders, far below the city, Lyra and the beast found themselves in an ancient subway chamber. The air was still and heavy with old dust. Strange markings covered the walls, symbols that glowed faintly as she approached. Lyra touched one of them, and a vision flashed before her eyes, a memory not her own. She saw another figure, human-like but dark and twisted, chained in the same den where she once fell. Its eyes burned red like the beast's, but colder, emptier. A voice whispered in her mind, "They made another before you." Lyra pulled her hand back, breathing hard. "They're bringing it," she whispered. The beast growled, uneasy. She looked up at the cracked ceiling above them. Then the real hunt begins. The night stretched long over the ruins of the High Colony, the fires finally dying into smoke and shadow. Deep beneath the surface, in a hidden chamber sealed long before Lyra's fall, alarms began to pulse red. Warning lights flickered against the cold steel walls as machines came to life, their hum rising like the heartbeat of something ancient waking from a long sleep. Inside a reinforced pod filled with blue liquid, a figure floated motionless. Its body was pale, almost transparent, veins glowing faintly under the skin. A mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, "Subject 0, activation sequence complete." The liquid drained slowly, revealing a body almost human but not quite. Its eyes opened, red and sharp like burning glass. Commander Rowe stood in the observation room above, watching with a strange smile. "Welcome back," he said softly. "Your sister has returned. It's time you met her." The creature tilted its head slightly, as if recognizing the name. Then its lips curled into something like a smile, but without warmth, only hunger. "Lyra," it said in a broken, low voice, the sound distorted as if too much power slept inside its throat. The pod hissed open, and Subject 0 stepped out, water dripping from its skin. Its movements were slow but precise, every motion controlled, almost graceful. It was built like Lyra, but stronger, colder, forged from the same experiment that had nearly destroyed her. "Find her," Rowe ordered. "And bring her to me, dead or alive." The creature didn't reply. It simply vanished, moving faster than the cameras could follow. Above ground, the wind howled through the city ruins. Lyra sat beside a small fire inside an abandoned subway station, her face lit by the soft orange glow. The beast rested nearby, breathing deeply, its body rising and falling in slow rhythm. Lyra stared at her trembling hands. The blue glow under her skin was brighter now, pulsing like a living thing. Every time she used her power, it grew stronger, but it also consumed her a little more. She whispered, "I don't know how much longer I can control it." The beast lifted its head, letting out a soft rumble as if telling her she was not alone. She smiled faintly, but her eyes were filled with worry. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. A cold wind swept through the tunnels, carrying with it the faint echo of footsteps. Not human footsteps, something heavier, sharper, deliberate. Lyra stood slowly, her senses sharpening. "They found us," she said. The beast growled, lowering its head, ready to defend her. From the darkness at the far end of the tunnel, two red lights appeared, eyes, glowing faintly in the mist. A voice followed, low and familiar. "Sister." Lyra froze. The sound hit her like a memory from another life. The figure stepped into the light, tall, pale, almost her reflection but twisted. The same face, the same eyes once blue now burning red. She whispered, "No, it can't be." The creature smiled. "They made me first. You were the mistake they learned from." Lyra shook her head slowly. "They said you didn't survive." "They lied," the creature said. "They kept me down there, waiting. Watching you become what I was meant to be." Its gaze shifted to the beast. "And you brought a pet. How human." The beast snarled, the ground trembling under its weight. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but heavy with emotion. "You don't have to do this. We're the same. We were both used." Subject 0 tilted its head, the smile fading. "No, Lyra. You broke free. I stayed. I learned to love the darkness. I became it." It moved so fast that Lyra barely saw it. 1 second it was standing still, the next it was in front of her, striking. Lyra blocked with her arm, sparks of blue and red energy colliding in a burst of light that shook the tunnel. The explosion threw both of them backward, debris raining from the ceiling. The beast roared, charging at Subject 0, but the creature caught it mid-leap and slammed it into the wall with impossible strength. Lyra screamed, firing a pulse of energy that knocked the creature back. "Stop!" she shouted. "You don't know what you're doing." Subject Zero laughed, its voice sharp and hollow. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking back what was stolen from me." It lunged again, and the fight began in full. Blue and red light clashed, filling the tunnels with thunder and dust. Every hit was like a small explosion. Lyra fought with precision, her movements fast and graceful, but Subject Zero was stronger, faster, more ruthless. The beast tried to intervene again, but a single strike from Subject Zero sent it crashing into the ground, its roar fading into pain. "No!" Lyra cried, fury flooding through her veins. The blue glow around her flared bright, and she unleashed a shockwave that sent Subject Zero flying through the wall into another tunnel. "You shouldn't have touched him," she said, her voice trembling with rage. Subject Zero wiped the blood from its lip and smiled. "Now you're starting to understand." It disappeared again, and before Lyra could react, it was behind her. A sharp pain hit her side as its claws tore through her armor. She screamed, falling to her knees. The creature leaned close, whispering, "You can't win, Lyra. You're breaking apart. The power's eating you alive." Lyra gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stand. "Maybe. But I'll take you with me." She slammed her hands to the ground, and the entire tunnel erupted in light. The explosion tore through the old subway, collapsing walls and sending fire and dust into the air. When the smoke cleared, both were gone. Commander Rowe watched from his command screen, the signal from both subjects lost. "Find them," he ordered coldly. "No one else can know they exist." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, if both are alive, they could destroy the city." Rowe smiled faintly. "Then let them. Maybe that's what it takes to start again." Deep beneath the rubble, Lyra opened her eyes. She was bleeding, weak, but alive. The beast lay beside her, injured but breathing. She looked around, her voice a whisper. "Where is he?" The silence answered her. Subject Zero was gone. Somewhere in the darkness, far above or below, her mirror self was still out there, awake, waiting, hunting. Lyra clenched her fists, pain burning through her body. "If this is what they made us for," she said softly, "then I'll finish what they started." The faint sound of footsteps echoed through the debris, not human, not mechanical, something that still moved in the dark. The hunt wasn't over. It had just begun. The storm had swallowed the sky, turning it into a sea of black clouds and white lightning. The city that once glowed with silver lights now burned like a dying sun, its towers collapsing one by one under the weight of chaos. Lyra stood on the edge of the shattered bridge that crossed the ruins, her clothes torn, her body weak, her blue glow flickering like a dying flame. The beast lay behind her, wounded but alive, its breath shallow, eyes dim. Across the bridge stood Subject Zero, its red eyes glowing brighter than ever, its voice echoing through the thunder. "It ends here, sister." Lyra stared at it, her expression calm but filled with sadness. "It should have ended the moment they made us." The wind screamed between them, carrying dust and ash. Lightning flashed, painting the world in silver for a heartbeat. Then, silence, just the sound of the storm breathing. Subject Zero tilted its head. "You could have ruled this world with me. We are gods, Lyra. Above them. Beyond them." Lyra shook her head slowly. "No. We're what happens when gods forget mercy." The creature smiled faintly. "Then you'll die like one." It moved first, faster than light, a red blur tearing through the air. Lyra raised her hand just in time, blocking the strike with a burst of blue energy. The impact exploded between them, sending shockwaves that shattered the bridge beneath their feet. They leapt apart as the concrete cracked and fell into the chasm below. The fight began again, fierce and final. Blue and red light danced through the storm, every collision shaking the sky. Lyra fought with everything she had left, her movements sharp and desperate. Subject Zero was relentless, its attacks brutal and precise. Each hit pushed her closer to the edge. The beast tried to stand, roaring weakly, but Lyra raised her hand. "Stay," she said softly. "This is mine." She turned back as Subject Zero rushed forward again. Their hands locked, blue and red light twisting together like fire and ice. "You can't stop me," Subject Zero hissed. "You're breaking apart." Lyra's voice came low and steady. "Maybe I am. But so are you." She pushed harder, their powers clashing until both were thrown back. Lightning struck the bridge behind them, setting it ablaze. The storm howled louder, almost alive, as if the sky itself was watching. Lyra stood slowly, blood running down her face. She could feel the power burning through her veins, too strong to contain. Every nerve in her body screamed. Subject Zero stepped forward, its body cracked with red light. "You can't destroy me," it said. "We are the same." Lyra shook her head. "No. We were the same. You chose to be their weapon. I chose to be free." She lifted her arms, and the ground beneath her began to glow. Blue light spread through the cracks, crawling across the ruins like living veins. The air vibrated with raw power. Subject Zero laughed, a sound filled with madness. "You'll destroy everything. Then let everything begin again," she whispered. They collided one last time. The explosion that followed turned the world white. The bridge disintegrated, the shockwave tearing through the city, flattening towers and silencing the storm. For a moment, there was no sound, only light. When the brightness faded, the rain began to fall again, soft and cold. The city was quiet. The fires were gone. In the middle of the crater where the bridge once stood, the beast lay motionless, surrounded by steam. It lifted its head weakly, letting out a low, mournful sound. Through the smoke, a single figure moved. Lyra. Her body was burned, her armor shattered, but she was alive. She stumbled forward, breathing hard. The blue light inside her was dim now, flickering like an ember. She looked around, no sign of Subject Zero. Just ashes and silence. She fell to her knees, exhausted, rain washing the blood from her skin. "It's over," she whispered. The beast limped toward her, pressing its head against her shoulder. She smiled faintly and placed her hand on its scales. "We made it." But then, a faint sound, metal scraping stone. She turned sharply. From the smoke, a red glow blinked once, then faded. Subject Zero crawled out, half of its body torn apart, the red light fading from its veins. It looked at her, eyes filled not with hate, but confusion. "Why didn't you kill me when you could?" it asked weakly. Lyra crawled closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Because you're still human, somewhere inside." The creature's hand trembled. "I wanted to be free, like you." Lyra reached out, touching its face gently. "Then be free." The red light in its eyes flickered, then went out. Subject Zero lay still. The storm began to clear, the first rays of dawn piercing through the clouds. Lyra sat there for a long moment, watching the sky slowly turn gold. The city was broken, but alive. People began to emerge from the ruins, staring in awe at the crater, at the woman sitting in its heart. Some whispered her name, others fell to their knees. She looked at them, her expression calm but distant. "Don't build what we destroyed," she said softly. "Make something better." The wind carried her words across the ruins. She stood, leaning on the beast for support, and began to walk toward the horizon. Behind her, the sun rose, light spilling over the shattered world. The blue glow beneath her skin flickered once more, then faded completely. She was no longer the weapon they created, just a woman who had survived the impossible. The beast followed close, silent and loyal. Together, they walked away from the ruins of the High Colony, leaving behind the echoes of war and the ghosts of what once was. The city would remember her not as a monster, but as the one who faced the darkness and walked out of it. Somewhere far behind, the machines powered down, the last remnants of the old order fading into silence. Lyra did not look back. The storm had ended. The world was waiting to begin again.